There's few phrases and concepts that we are going to be talking about tonight. We are going to be talking about RFQs. We are going to try and establish what is this animal called RFQ. What is its significance? And then immediately after we have believed, we have exhausted, and we have made you very, very comfortable about this concept, we will jump to another important procurement concept, limited or closed bidding. I hope you have a pen. Limited or closed bidding. You cannot do business if you know these things, and you cannot be a supplier if you don't know these things. The third one that we are going to be trying and dissect today is transversal contracting. What is this? I've got experts here. They are going to tell us all about these concepts. The last one that we are going to be dealing with will be open competitiveness. Open competitiveness bidding. I know people have been talking about this. We have these two experts today who are going to tell us. I know they've been talking about rotation and all that stuff. All what we know, it's a wheel that rotates. They're going to tell us what is this. Now, to keep the ball rolling, Merahadi, please educate us about RFQ. What is RFQ?
Okay, firstly, let me explain why the suppliers need to understand this buying methods of buying. It will really assist them in sifting out the scams from the real requests from government. Also, when we talk about transversal contracts, they would know which commodities or services do we buy collectively as government. That would mean if you get an RFQ that talks to what we buy through a transversal contract, then you would know it might be a fake. For competitive bidding, we are giving you the information just so you are ready when government starts rolling out what we call open tendering process that was launched in Gauteng. So in that way, you need to understand what goes into competitive bidding for you to be able to participate in the open tendering process. What I will start with the RFQ. It is called RFQ in full. It's request for quotation. This is where you find the majority of our suppliers. If you pull out the stats on the central supplier database, our suppliers are mostly clustered under catering, cleaning. You find construction. Construction is not big construction, it's maintenance. So what it means when they are clustered under one commodity, through the RFQ, there needs to be a rotation of suppliers, just to give them an opportunity, all of them, to quote and tell us how much are they going to charge us for the services that we are asking for. If it's 4,000 of them under catering, we need to take the top 5, because with the RFQ you need to work with 3 quotations. So you go and extend it to 5 just in case the other 2 don't respond. When you are done with that 5, you appoint 1. After appointing 1, you drop the 5 to the bottom of the list. The next time you're looking for caterers, you take the top 5. Excuse me.
Sorry about that. No, feel free. People understand that from time to time we're going to cough.
So most suppliers, they tend to say, I've been on a central supplier database and nobody ever called me to quote or tender or anything. It simply means when you are on the CSD, you're just telling us where you are, what you're saying, like I said the last time. However, if you are in a location where they use only one supplier who sells the same commodities as you and they never call you, or they call you to quote, but they never ask you to come and supply, you have a right to go to that organ of state and ask, why is it that you always ask me to quote and you never come back to me? What is it that I'm doing wrong? Probably you can even ask, who am I competing against all the time that they keep on getting the job and I don't? Because what happens in most instances, you find that they ask 5 suppliers to quote, right? And then the first 4 would submit their quotations. With the last one that they want, they would call that particular person and say, just drop your quotation with 10 rands. So that particular supplier will forever get the job. So it is important that if you notice that there's one supplier that they use for the commodities or services that I can supply as well as a supplier, you need to ask, why is it that I keep on quoting but you never tell me what I'm doing wrong?
Okay, just there, in fact, just keep that thought. Merus, we just heard here, they are talking about this possibility of rotating service providers that will provide the same service. What will be the reasons, for instance, that will lead one to complain because they are not getting the job? I mean, to us, when you talk rotation, unless rotation to procurement means something else, when you talk rotation, it means it's like a wheel. At some point in time, all the sections of the wheel are going to have to touch the surface. Why this particular person is going to have to take that phone and say, I've been providing the codes, but I'm not getting the job? What would be the reasons for that?
And in supply chain management, by a rotating simply means you are given a chance to submit your quotation. Suppliers should understand that if you are given an opportunity to quote for a service that is worth 200,000 and your quotation is above $1 million, remember you'll be competing with other service providers. And if their quotations are low, then you'll not be awarded that contract and you'll complain. They should also understand, maybe I also need to indicate that request for quotation is issued for expenditure that is below 500,000. In government, we have what we call threshold. So if expenditure is below 500,000, it will be quotation. Request for quotations will be issued to service providers who are registered in the central supply database. So if your quotation, if you are given an opportunity to quote, you must remember that you're still competing with other service providers. So if your quotation is very high, then chances of you getting that job are slim. So you need to check your quotation as well when you submit, because some service providers think that because they are quoting for government, then they quote very high. So that could be the reason for you not to get the job.
Talking about that, I remember there was an instance where we read in some of our local papers where people, because they were providing a service for government, they were providing your class, your normal class that you use for water at home. They were charging thousands and thousands of rands for one class. Fortunately enough, we know what is a class, and I don't think that job went all the way. Ms. Rahadi, you were on the roll here. You were talking about the importance of this RFQ. Let's say, you know how some of these people are lazy. Anything that has to do with writing, filling up forms and templates. Are you able to share with your listeners the importance of this? Like, let them understand if they do not subject to this, what would happen?
Okay, I'm thinking about one particular case that we dealt with. Firstly, Rose spoke about the thresholds. At local government, it's below 200,000. It's different from national and other entities. Suppliers, when they quote, they need to indicate clearly. If we're saying we're looking for 500 books, they should tell us 500 books. This is how much per book, right? If you're charging us VAT, add the VAT. Don't go and say VAT inclusive. Give us the price, add the VAT, give us the total. Right? Some of them, they just write up 500 books, 20,000, and they leave it at that. There's no bank statement, there's no bank account details, there's no address, there's no contact details, and it comes in, and then they just put it to the side. The one case that we dealt with that suppliers have a role in it that contribute to it is that they have relationship with practitioners. What happened was the practitioner, when as a user I ask, I want to buy a particular kind of machine. And in my mind, I know that machine costs 2,000 rand. That's what I have in the budget anyway. So I send a request, it goes through the process. The practitioner, instead of calling everybody, they call one person who's in Western Cape, the other one who is in Limpopo, and the other one who's nearer in Pretoria. Knowing very well that the two will just look and say, but this thing costs 2,000 rand, why should I leave Western Cape to deliver this thing? Or leave Limpopo to deliver this thing? So the one who is nearer, who has a relationship with the practitioner, then charges us, quotes us on 27,000 for that particular machine that costs 2,000 rand. So it goes in, he delivers, he has an order, and then it gets to the owner. And I look at it and say, how many did you order? They say, one. He says, no, it cannot be, this machine would be 27,000. It must be 2,000. Now, the supplier comes to us now, to the OCPO, and say, I have an order number, they don't want to pay. I say, why? He says, I don't know. They say, I must drop the price.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
So we go and investigate, you know, the love of supply chain, this paper trail. You check, you compare, you ask, but why do you charge us 27,000? No, that's the price of the machine. I said, no, it's not. He says, no, I'm taking you to my lawyers. I said, please do. But we are going to pay you 2,000.
Wow, from 20-something thousand. People can take chances. Before we go to a follow-up question, listeners, remember, this office could have easily printed a couple of posters, leaflets, and distribute them and say, here is the information about what we do and who we are. But fortunately enough, they believe in communication. They believe in a two-way process where they say something and they expect you to interact with what they are saying. So tonight, you are given an opportunity to interact with what they are sharing with you. Here is the number. You can call. Here is the number. Is 0800. Yes, I know we are reaching out for your pen. It's 0800 142 446. That's the number to call. If you are using your mobile number, the colleagues over there, Linda Mazibuko and Reginald Sanyane, will take your number and call you back. This is the way we say to the department, as GCIS, we support this. We'll meet you halfway. We'll make sure that we are going to budget for that component. Now tell me, as the National Treasurer, don't you have some kind of authority or power to blacklist people who do these things? Someone wants to come and sell a glass for 2,000 when we know the glass is 5 rand. It's just an example. You've made a reference here to a machine for 20-something thousand when it's 2. But before you answer that, let's go to Harankua. We have Undate, what's his name? Undate Fanti. Undate Fanti, okay, Undate Fanti, I'm very sorry about that. Please make that call again. Let's try and find out if this office that is entrusted by this government to make sure that our money, the public purse, is not abused in this way. Do you have an authority of some kind to blacklist this person, never again to do business, at least with the public sector?
To respond to that one, we don't blacklist. We just list suppliers on the database of restricted suppliers.
Okay.
Based on the information that we receive from institutions or departments. Because if you don't have information, we won't know that this service provider quoted this or this service provider did not. But for that particular one, I don't think we can. It warrants to be a service provider to be blacklisted. We get information if you were awarded the tender or you were issued with an order to supply or to render a service and you fail to render that service as required, then the department or the institution will interact with you And then when they are satisfied that it warrants you to be listed, they will provide us with information and evidence that you were engaged, you failed to do your work, you were engaged, and all the process were followed, and then we'll blacklist you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or possibility exists that one can be blacklisted.
Yes.
No, that's great. I think we must do this, because from what I picked up from Ms. Rakhadi, there are instances where people begin to take the phone and phone, but why is this so-and-so is the one who's doing this? That tells me there's Popoyan Sefuchi in this thing. There's someone who is making it possible for this person, and that person is likely to be inside, inside. Okay, now, we will wait for those callers. I know the signals. I've got a signal from Miss Rose. She wants to say something. The microphone is yours, Rose.
Okay, I wanted to add on still on the request for quotation that suppliers need to understand that there are compliance requirements as well that are required. There are SBD forms that need to be completed and submitted, even the submission time, because if you fail, if you are given, if you are issued with a request for quotation, there will be time, the closing time, for you to submit the quotation. If you don't meet that time, then your quotation will not be considered. So they should take that into consideration to say there are also requirements that goes with the request for quotation, and they should comply with that. Your tax compliance also is applicable here, not only to open tendering.
Okay, you spoke about two critical things, tax compliance and SBD.
Yes.
Now, there's this perception. If we are getting a job of less than a particular amount, some of these things are not a requirement. For instance, if it's less than 10,000, you need not to provide tax clearance certificate. And if it's not more than a particular amount, you need not to provide SBT forms. Please talk to us about this. We don't want people to believe they are taken advantage of.
With the CSD, you are required to, you remember now, for you to do business with government, you need to be registered on the Central Supply Database. And obviously you will be tax compliant, because then the CSD will have a problem with you. With the SBD forms, yes, there are thresholds. Anything above 30,000, you are required to complete the SBD forms 4, 8, and 9. Those are declaration forms. There's one SBD, that is SBD 6. That one is not a requirement, but then if you don't complete and submit, you'll forfeit the points, the very critical points, the BEE points. And the request for quotation, when it is issued to you, when you receive a request for quotation, if you know that this expenditure will be above 30,000 or 50,000, just request them to send the SBD forms, because sometimes it happens that they don't issue the SBD forms only to disqualify you.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, this threshold, is it accumulative or is it a once-off? For instance, I go and get a job for over 30,000 once, I need to produce this, or I get a job for 5,000 this week, the following 5,000, until accumulatively it is about 30,000. Then, when I reach that mark from these 5,000s that I've been getting, I need to say, for the last 5,000, here is the SBT form, or it's just more than 30,000.
When a request for quotation is issued for this particular service or the particular supply that is required by the institution, they will issue the SBD forms as well. So you need to complete the SBD forms with that. When you submit your quotation, you need to submit that. So it's not cumulative.
Okay. Now we are going to move because the time is moving as well. Remember, we promised that we're going to dissect what is meant by limited or closed bidding. Can we shadow box this particular concept? What is it?
Mr. Klaas, humble request that possibly we should start with transversal contracting, because Limited bidding talks to open bidding process. It's just a different way of competitive bidding, so to say.
Thank you to you. Thank you to you. Let's do that. Let's do that.
The reason why the reason why we're talking about transversal contracts today is because some of the commodities government buy collectively. We don't buy them in RFQs or in singular items. If suppliers understand what we buy collectively, then they would be able, like I said, to suss out the fake RFQs from the original ones. A transversal contract, most people refer to it as centralized buying. So we look at departments that are buying common commodities, and they come together to say, how do we buy them cheaper, right? So what would happen, it's like if you have, what do you call it, Mogodisano or something, stock fair.
Yes.
So we put money together. We know when we go to a wholesaler, we're going to buy in bulk, and it's going to be cheaper. So on the transversal contracts, we have almost just a little bit over 50 transversal contracts.
Wow.
And within some of the contracts, transversal contracts, they're sector specific. You have ones that are applicable to education only. You have those that are applicable to health. In health, you'll find those condoms, those Mex, Mex.
The ones that
yes, Mex.
That are red, colorful.
Yes, colorful Mex.
I was there when they were launching them.
Yes, you'll have the condom contract, and then you'll have a transversal contract that has surgical gloves, syringes, all those kind of things, washing chemicals for theatre and all those things. So if they go into the Treasury website and look under transversal contracts, then they will be able to see the commodities that are pegged under transversal contracts. Some of the transversal contracts that we have is to buy tires. I mean, so many departments, they use cars, they would need tires. So if you know that we buy in tires of different sizes and make collectively, and you get an RFQ where they say, come and deliver tires for us, then you would know, but government doesn't buy these things individually, than to say, oh, it's an RFQ, let me go deliver, and then you deliver, somebody disappears with the tires. So it is important that they know how we buy certain things, so that when they get those fake RFQs, then they can suss it out without having to call anybody. So the information is there on the website. Please, it's not for us, it's for you to use to your own benefit.
As I'm listening to you now, Meragade, I get the impression that we are talking with big players here. We are talking with suppliers that are not your spaza shop suppliers. Why would these people not understand these things? I mean, if someone has the propensity to secure a contract to supply all the public hospitals with surgical gloves, for instance, why would that person have supply chain problems? Why would that person fail not to comply? Now share with us some of the problems that you encounter, because really I would understand if you are talking about someone who's starting something, at a corner shop. We are talking about people who are supplying here set-top boxes, for DTT. Why would these people not understand? What kind of problems? I mean, for you to come here and have this program and try to share information with these suppliers, it means that there are problems. What kind of problems are you confronted with?
Look, these programs that we're running, we're not targeting people who are big in business. Those ones, they know what they are doing. Our concern is the small businesses that are getting into this process. It's the first time they get into this thing. They don't understand the size of government. If you look at the behind the PFMA, you will see there's so many scheduled entities. That is government on its own. Government has over 44 departments. There's provinces, there's local government. All of those are government. So they go into this thing thinking that it's an easy thing. You just go in, you get a tender, you get out. Only to find that you're just scrapping for the small things. And if you do that, getting into this process without understanding who we are as government, how we buy certain things, trust me, you are going to fall for scams. You are going to be used. You are going to be paying money for things that you shouldn't be paying money for. And that is why we want them to understand how we do things, so that they can know it cannot be government if they ask me to pay money in advance to get a tender, because we don't ask you to pay. That is why we are moving towards giving them the tender documents for free through our e-tender site. So they don't know those things. That is why they keep on going into these things blindly. And they get robbed, they get sabotaged, and they don't know how to deal with these things. For instance, we have a supplier who got a call. It's a small supplier. He was asked to deliver some aluminium steel in Soweto somewhere. He went there, he installed in some open field. When he was done, he was called to say, go and deliver your invoice in the Department of Supply Chain in Pretoria. There is no such department. And it cost him a lot of money to deliver those things. When he went back, those aluminium poles were not there.
Wow.
And we can't pay for something that we didn't order. So if they know that government doesn't buy aluminium poles, if they buy them, what are they going to do them? What are they going to use them for? So we're not talking to the established ones. We're talking to the ones who want to do business with government, and those who jumped into this ship without knowing how deep this ship is.
Jesus, I get you. Rose, let's just remind the listeners there that they can call, and we will call them back. The number is 0800 142 446. 0800 142 446. I know you know this number. I'm just doing this exercise. By the way, I did not say this. At some point in time, when we do the last program, we've been noting which language group is really serious about these programs. We know yesterday we did one with Nguni language stations. Day before yesterday we did one with Sesotho. We know the number of callers that call from each program. And I know how many callers we've received today. Now, I don't know if we'll be able to convince the client to come and talk to these language group stations tomorrow if they don't demonstrate that they are embracing the program, they are appreciating the program, they want the program. Before we gave our callers the number, Rose, I can see people are calling here, but we're dropping the phones. I don't know. Maybe it's our lines. I'm not taking anything from our callers, but I'm just putting it out there. Rose, before we mentioned the number, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to say that transversal contracting is not for big companies. As long as our small companies understand that they can form joint ventures, they can consortiums, and also to note that when we award for transversal contracting, we don't award to one company for the whole country. We award to multiple suppliers.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Now, I know there are perceptions out there. They feel if it is prepared for mass consumption, therefore the quality might not be good. I know the government is doing this for a particular purpose. Was saying we go out there and get the stuff in bulk where we have a better position in negotiating for the good rate. What is it that we can tell the people and assure them that in fact that we procure at a reasonable rebated fees is not necessarily cheap quality? I know people have been saying all sorts of things about the example that we have cited previously, that they are good and they smell nice, but I don't want us to go back to that example. But what is it that we can say to assure the public out there that when we go out in this fashion, bulk buying, we're not necessarily going for the cheap stuff.
No. When we go on a transversal, we look at the high value commodities. We don't go on a transversal contract for catering, for instance. We look at the commodities that are expensive and are used across the government. And for quality's sake, they have to be SABS standard. You cannot just buy something that is not approved by the South African Bureau of Standards. So we buy in quality for sure. But it's big commodities. It's huge commodities.
Mm-hmm.
However, there, like I'm saying, within a tender, you might find that there's so many items in a health. You find surgical napkins. You find napkins for adults.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have suppliers who have a factory and they manufacture those, they just need to take them through to get them through the SABS accreditation. Once they do that, they can participate in these tenders. Nobody's saying they can't do it, as long as they have the capacity to deliver those services. Because we don't want them to say we can deliver. The next thing you go to your hospital, they don't have the napkins for the babies, the newborns. So they need to look at their capacity as well.
You see, at this point, when I work with experts, people that are ace in their fields, when we call people ace in football, it means you are a master in your craft. You play football very, very well. Let's hold on that. I see signals that suggest Nomsa Sindane would want to engage you. Nomsa Sindane from Midrand, you are on air. Thank you for having us, ma'am. You can ask. I have Merahadi here and Merose. You can hit them with difficult questions.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Menomsa, who did you approach in government for funding? Mm-hmm. Okay, did you try Kula Enterprises or IDC? IDC, that's the independent, give them a try. I think your capital that you need is not that high. They should be able to help you, especially if you have the business that is running already. Just give them a try. If you don't come in right, let us know. Right, leave your number and or probably you can leave your email as well, so that we can follow up with you if you did come right or not. Oh.
No, we've got it. Don't worry. Linda will put you through.
What we'll do, we'll just take it and call you back tomorrow. You're welcome.
Thank you to you, Nomsa. These are the benefits. These are the benefits of this program. You see, government has this thing of turning the darkest hour, into dawn. Now let's go to Tsepo, Northwest. Tsepo, this might be your lucky day. What is your question? I have Rahati and Tsepo here.
And Rose.
Evening, sir. How are you, Ndate Tsepo? Hit them with difficulty. Okay, what is the second question before we seek clarity in the first one? What is the second question, Tsepo? Okay. Tsepo, don't drop the phone first, and I want to ascertain if we got the first question. I think the second one is very clear. Did we get the first question?
We get the first one, but the second one I didn't get it.
You did not get. Oh, I got the second. Did you get the first question?
I think I'm okay with the first one. The second one I just heard about a proposal, but I couldn't understand what you want.
We got your questions. We are going to respond. Let's go to Rahati to try and assist you with the first question. Thank you very much, sir. Rahati, first question.
Okay, the first question, he was talking about whether there's limitations to applying for multiple tenders. There isn't. As long as you have the capacity and you can deliver on the job, it's an open competitive bidding. If it's out there, it means anybody can participate, right? Even through the RFQs, if they ask you to quote for different things that you have registered on the CSD, you can respond. So there's no blocking that you supplied last week, so we can't do that with you.
Good.
It's an open competitive bidding. It's out there. If you can do it, come and tell us how you're going to do it. It simply means that.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm so educated now.
Okay.
Rose, the second question?
No, I also want to add on the first one.
Okay, and then you go to the second.
If the tender is issued today and you participated, and next week another tender is issued, you still need to participate. It's not like when you have responded to this one this week, then next week they will consider you. If there are tenders that are advertised, always you need to participate. You need to participate.
You need to submit.
Yes.
Submit, yes.
Thank you.
For a particular
Thank
tender.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. I did get the sense that because I submitted, do I have to submit again because they are issuing out a code RFQ for the same thing that I submitted for? So thank you very much. I think you've if he's not happy, he can call again.
Yeah. The only thing that he does once is a registration on the CSD.
Good. What do you mean? It does
you register once.
You
on the CSD. Once you've registered, you've done. Your profile will be there.
Okay.
You only change it or go to if you change your banking details or you relocate.
Okay.
Yes.
No, thank you. Thank you, because I know that people who've been calling us, hey, but I've registered, they're saying I'm not compliant, I'm not... Okay, now I understand you need to update. Now, the second Rose, the second question, you still remember it, eh?
I didn't get that.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh,
let
okay.
me just assume. Let me just assume what he's talking about.
Okay.
He said he submitted a proposal to government.
Okay.
We're not sure whether he was asked to do it or not.
No, he voluntarily.
Yeah. So that one is unsolicited bid. It's
Yes.
a method of buying that government does. That's one thing we're going to talk about next week, because there are certain things that he needs to do as a supplier before submitting an unsolicited bid. We call it unsolicited because it's voluntary.
Tsepo, you have a date with us next week. Next week, we are specifically dealing with that because we know some people out there take what we call initiative.
Yep.
Because you can see there's a need for this particular intervention there. And I go out there and I come with a proposal, I give it to the government. The next thing, no one is calling me. Now, thank you, Tsepo. Tsepo, next time, be on the lookout. Same time, same day, we'll be discussing exactly that unsolicited bid. Now, I can see this telephone lines flashing, but I want to go to the next, because I want us to exhaust all these critical and pertinent questions. Open competitiveness. Okay. Can we talk about that? Because I think this one has rough edges.
Open competitive bidding, it has to do with the tenders that we advertise. They call them tenders now. These are the ones that you see on the e-tenders portal. That's competition right there. However, what happens before you see a tender, there's three committees, right? You have the bid specification committee. Those are the ones who sit together and say, these are the things that we want to buy, and this is how we're going to evaluate the people who claim they can deliver the service, right? That's the criteria they will put out there. Once that is done, on the bid, when it goes out, it should indicate what government wants to buy, right? How are they going to evaluate you as a supplier if you compete? Secondly, it should be advertised for minimum of 21 working days, right? They must look out as well on the advert once it goes out whether there is no mandatory briefing session Because if it's mandatory and you want to tender, you want to submit a tender, you must attend a briefing session. Because you might find that on the tender itself, once it's advertised, some of the terminologies are not clear. So they use that mandatory briefing to clarify those kind of things. So when they go to the briefing session, they must make sure they download the bid document and go there and ask direct questions, because they would have read the bid document. Don't miss the mandatory briefing session. It can help you. It will clarify a lot of things for you, so that when you put together your bid, you do it correctly. Right.
Okay. Basically, we are saying this session is aimed at helping you.
Yes.
Then if that is the case, why do they qualify you if you did not attend? If it was an additional, they disqualify you. If it was intended to assist you, to benefit you, I mean, let's say I don't need that, I've got this, why do you get disqualified if you don't attend?
Institutions make a decision. Not all the tenders have mandatory compulsory briefing sessions. So the tenders that, according to the institutions, are very critical for them to explain, for service providers to understand what exactly is required. The information that can be put in the document, because it can result in maybe volume, a lot of pages for the tender. So they want to clarify, because they want you to supply exactly, or to render the service that they require. So it is compulsory. They will indicate in their tender document that the briefing session is compulsory. Yes. So, but not all the competitive bidding have compulsory briefing sessions.
Well, once again, it's a compliance issue.
Yes, it depends on the complexity of the tender itself.
Yes.
Because sometimes some of the wording is not that clear, so you need to go there and understand how do you package what you need to supply. So there are standards, maybe you need to package it in a particular way. You want package mix in a paper towel or something. So those are the things that they will clarify with you. Okay.
The purpose of the briefing session is not to change the terms of reference or the evaluation criteria, but to clarify some issues that are there in the tender. Let me also indicate that service providers are allowed, when the tender close, to be there. For transparency purposes, they can attend the closing of the tender. The names of the bidders who responded to the tender will be read out. And there are two ways of submission. Sometimes the institutions will indicate that it's a 2-envelope system submission. So with 2-envelope submission, they simply mean that the other envelope will be for the proposal and other documents. The second envelope will be for the price. So when it's a 2-envelope submission, when the tender is opened, they are not going to read out the prices, but they'll read, the names of the other bidders who responded to the bid.
Okay.
So with 1-envelope submission, they are required to read out the names and the prices, and even the BE levels of the bidders who responded to the bid. So you are allowed as service providers to go there. When they indicate that the tender is closing on the 2nd at 11 o'clock, you can be there to check, and they must read the names.
Basically, wow, there's no way you can trick this.
No, there is.
There is?
No.
There's no way, huh?
There's a belief that there is. But I'll explain it to you.
Please do.
You see, when you do competitive bidding, like I said, there's 3 bid committees, right? We spoke about the bid specification.
Before we go on, you are not going to teach people how to trick the system.
No.
Okay, so
I just want them to see. I want to make them aware how they are getting tricked anyway.
Okay.
So what happens is that the bid evaluation committee takes the tenders that were submitted. They evaluate them based on the criteria, right? Once they're done, they make a recommendations to what we call the bid adjudication committee.
Okay.
Those ones will check if the criteria was applied the way it was supposed to be applied. They make a recommendation to say, out of all the bidders, we are recommending the appointment of Mr. Lennox Class.
Wow.
But Mr. Lennox Class doesn't know that. Mr. Lennox Class thinks he has a connection in the department. right? So that connection, once he knows that, Shim knows, let me say Shim. Shim knows that the recommendation has been made to appoint you. He calls you and say, we are deciding and finalizing the tender. So can we talk?
Wow.
You don't know that you have been awarded this thing already. You pay.
Wow.
You pay, and then tomorrow you get a letter of appointment. You think, oh my God, I have a connection. This guy is a miracle worker.
Wow.
You don't know that there is no way you can pay a tender today, a bribe today, and the decision is taken at night. You get a letter tomorrow.
Sure.
Chances are that you're paying for something that has been awarded to you already.
Man, I'm telling you, this is a very, very critical information, because you have people out there who believe they're at the mercy of so-and-so.
Yes.
So-and-so made it possible, when in fact they've been working so hard.
Yes, and they are deserving of that.
They
tender.
deserve that. Now, here is the warning to you out there. Rahati is telling us, you have unscrupulous people out there, no matter how you try to clean your system, because there were secretaries writing or taking notes, and they know who was fortunate enough to get this particular bid or contract or tender. They call you and say, look, Thabo, I've managed to press buttons here and you are going to get it. Let's talk. That person deserves to go to the darkest prison cell.
Yep.
This is the kind of a person that South Africa does not need.
Yep.
I'm not judgmental. I'm not trying to portray like an angel of some kind, but that can't be correct. This is what, that person has a black belt in corruption. It's a corruption to the core. So what do you do when you're confronted with such things?
Look, the suppliers need to understand these processes so that they can know that certain things cannot happen the way people claim it would happen. Because if you were to bribe a committee is not made out of 2 people. You might find there's 5 people. So if you pay a bribe, you must pay all 5 of them. And chances are that you don't know all of them. You just talk to one person. So it will be a little bit difficult to influence the entire committee.
If not impossible.
Yes, you have to start now influencing from the bid evaluation committee. You pay there, and then you come and pay to the adjudication committee. Maybe there are 7. You must pay all of them. And chances are that they recommend to the accounting officer to appoint you. If he looks at this thing and say, but this process doesn't seem to be going straight, and he overturns and say, go and look at it again, your money is gone.
Rahati, I concur with you. South Africa, I'm sure it's miles and miles away from that stage. We haven't reached that. There's no way where you can buy everybody. You see, we used to watch movies where it will be said mafia has bought all the juries, and then the verdict will be no guilty. When someone was boasting that I killed all these people. No, I don't think South Africa will get to that stage. Remember tomorrow, exactly this time, the president of the country will be addressing us. And we know part of what he's going to be talking about is exactly what Rahati was talking about. How we need to collectively work as a country to get rid of corruption. Corruption bleeds our country. Corruption is bad. Just in tune to a special broadcast brought to you by Office of the Chief Procurement Officer of the National Treasury. I'm with Rahadi. I'm with Rose.
May I respond to your limited bidding now?
Okay, please, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do that.
Limited bidding or closed bidding, it simply means we don't go out on competitive bidding. It applies to commodities or services where we know it can only be 3 people in the country who can do that. They are accredited, we know about them, right? You approach those 3 and say, give me your pricing, give me your proposal. You evaluate it because it's only 3 of them. It's only 3 of them. Why do you have to go and advertise then?
So in the first place, why is it only 3 of them?
It's a scarce commodity, so to say.
Oh,
It's not
okay,
everybody else who can do it. I mean, if you
Okay,
want...
almost all service provider.
Yes.
Yeah.
For instance, if you look at emergency services, you know, it's a few of them. It's
Mm.
that one and that one that will come, and an ambulance.
Okay.
The ones who do emergency services, you know, it's a
Mm,
few of them.
mm,
So you don't have to go out on competitive bidding and then you get lots and lots of bids that are non-compliant, and you go sifting through the paperwork just to get to the ones that you knew. So that one applies to closed bidding. You approach the 3 that are there who can provide that particular service.
No, like if you want the services of a national broadcaster, there's only one, which is SABC. No, I get that.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
at this point, Rahati, we've got, and Rose, we've got something like 2 minutes to wind up. This is the time you ask yourself a question and answer it. What is it that you think we did not cover and you feel it's very, very pertinent for the people out there?
Okay. Tomorrow, the president will be telling us what are the priorities.
Oh, you've
Now
got a speech.
you know. No,
You've got a speech.
I'm just saying. I don't know what he's going to say. That is why we need to listen when the
Okay.
president tells us for a Diwa guy, and then we start planning around that. So they need to listen carefully.
Thank you.
Because that's where they would know, can I do business with government, can I not? So it is very important that they listen tomorrow what the president is saying we're going to deliver as government to the people of the country.
Thank you very much. Rose?
Our listeners, please, we want you to assist us. We want you to understand the processes so that you can assist us in rooting corruption in South Africa. Thank you.
On that note, we have come to the end of this beautiful program, empowering program that is going to help some of us to ramp really this cycle of poverty. And I'm sure wherever we are sitting, if we're not planning to be one of the suppliers, here's an opportunity. You've got our number. Call us. We'll assist you how to become one. And let's meet again tomorrow when we do the State of the Nation address. Let's meet again next week when we conclude our business with the office of the Chief Procurement Officer. From me, Leno's class, it's bye. Say bye to the listeners, guys.
Good evening.
Bye.